You know how we always hear that a company's sales are booming, and we think, wow, they must be crushing it. But what if that's only half the story? Well, today we're going to be financial detectives. We're using the real financial reports from a company called Aarti Drugs to uncover the fascinating story that's hiding just behind the numbers. So here's the central mystery we're going to solve together. I want you to imagine this. A company is selling more stuff than ever before. Its revenue is climbing higher and higher. But when you look at the bottom line, the actual profit it's making, that number is just stuck, or maybe even falling. How is that even possible? That's the puzzle we're tackling today.
In this slide, this just lays out the paradox perfectly. On the one hand, RE Drugs revenue grew by a really healthy 23% over 5 years. Great. But then you look to the right. In that same period, their profit actually went down by 1%. So more money is coming in the door, but less of it is actually sticking around. What is going on here?
Okay, let's start our investigation with the good news, right? The top line. A company's first job is to sell its products. And as you're about to see, Aarti Drugs has been doing a pretty great job of that. And I mean, the growth is crystal clear. Back in the second quarter of 2019, the company brought in 443 crores. Fast forward 5 years, and that number has jumped to 543 crores. That's an extra 100 crores in sales in just 1 quarter. On the surface, this looks absolutely fantastic. But as we know, it's not the whole picture. So now we get to the heart of the mystery. If sales are up, why aren't profits? This is where a financial report stops being just a list of numbers and turns into a genuine story, full of clues about the challenges a company is really facing. And here is our first major clue. Despite that huge 100 crore increase in revenue we just saw, the company's profit, it barely budged. In fact, it actually dipped a tiny bit, from 30.8 crores to 30.4 crores. So they did all that extra work, sold all those extra goods for basically the same result. So where did the money go? To find that missing profit, we have to follow the money trail. And that trail leads us straight to the company's expenses. You see, a company doesn't just collect revenue, it has to spend money to make that money. The real question is, how much is it spending and what is it spending it on? This chart gives us a quick snapshot of the company's costs in 2024. And right away, something should jump out at you. A massive 65% of all expenses is the cost of materials. For a pharma company like this, that's the raw ingredients for their drugs. When that one slice of the pie is so big, even a small increase in its cost can have a huge impact on profits. Okay, now this table, this is where the story gets really interesting. Look, revenue grew by 23%, and the cost of materials, it only grew by 14%, which is actually pretty good. They managed those costs well. But look at the other two lines. Employee benefits shot up by 35%, and other expenses just skyrocketed by 43%. These costs grew much, much faster than revenue, basically acting like a vacuum and sucking up all the profit from those extra sales. Now, you might be thinking, okay, mystery solved. But hold on, because there's another plot twist here, and it's a huge one, especially if you're an investor. You see, it's not just about the total profit a company makes, it's about your piece of that profit. So let's set our baseline. Back in 2019, for every single share of Aarti Drugs you owned, the company earned 13.22 rupees in that quarter. This is a super important metric called earnings per share, or EPS. It tells you how much of the company's profit is allocated to your one little share. And here is the jaw dropper. 5 years later, even though the total profit was about the same, the earnings for your share plummeted from over 13 rupees all the way down to just 3.33 rupees. That's a collapse of nearly 75%. How on earth does that happen if the total profit didn't really change? Well, it all comes down to the pretty simple math behind EPS. You take the company's total profit, that number we saw which stayed flat, and you divide it by the total number of company shares out there. So if the profit is the same, but the earnings per share went way down, that can only mean one thing. To really get what happened, let's forget about stocks for a second and think about something much, much simpler: pizza. Okay, so imagine the company's total profit is one large pizza, and each share of stock is one slice of that pizza. Back in 2019, we had a certain number of slices. But what happens if, over the next 5 years, the company keeps the pizza the exact same size, but decides to cut it into many, many more slices?
That's right, each individual slice gets a whole lot smaller.
And that is exactly what happened here. The total profit, our pizza, stayed stuck at around 30 crores. But the company dramatically increased the number of slices, or shares. So the piece of the profit that belonged to each share just had to shrink. And here it is, the final clue that solves our entire mystery. In 2019, that profit pie was split among about 23 million shares. By 2024, that same-sized pie was being split among a whopping 91 million shares. That's almost 4 times as many. Now, this can happen for a lot of reasons, like raising money, but the result for the shareholder is the same. Even with flat profits, the value per share tanked because the earnings had to be spread so much thinner. So now we can put all the pieces together. By looking beyond that headline number of revenue, we've uncovered this much more complex and, frankly, much more interesting story of rising costs and a massive increase in the number of shares. And what this gives us is a really powerful checklist for when you look at any company. Don't just stop at revenue, dig deeper. Check if expenses are under control, see if the profits are actually growing, and critically, check if the earnings per share is healthy, and keep an eye on whether the number of shares is changing. This is how you find the real story. So the next time you see a big headline about a company's record sales, you'll know that's just the first page of the book. The real insights, the real drama, the real stories, they're all waiting for you inside that full report. So what will you discover?